Pyramids of Old Egypt. Introduction. The pyramids of Egypt are a clear proof of what a structured and organized society can accomplish. The Egyptians were able to create monumental structures that have lasted for centuries. We will explore how the construction of the pyramids was possible, as well as their purpose and the impact these enormous constructions had in Egyptian society. Since the first dynasty tombs were built in Egypt, an example is found in Abydos royal tumulus tomb of the first dynasty. A subterranean chamber, roofed in timber and topped with a heap of sand, contained within a brick shell. In a low precinct wall, the king's family and members of the court were buried in mastabas. Another example is found in Saqqara mortuary complex of Queen Hernia, first dynasty, a burial pit cut into native rock comprised, in addition to the burial chamber, a number of subsidiary rooms holding the owner's valuable possessions. The tombs the Egyptians usually used were called mastabas. A mastaba was a rectangular shape with sloping sides and a flat roof, but this changed on the third dynasty. Sosar's Pyramid Complex. This tomb is larger and more elaborate than any before it, and was not organized on the Egyptian principle of axial sequence. This tomb was built using the hardened medium of Tura limestone. This construction was a breaking point in Egyptian architecture. It was credited to the architect Imhotep due to finding his name in one of the rock-cut galleries. It is possible to know something of his working methods due to a handful of architectural drawings that have survived. Step Pyramid. The reason of the transformation from the traditional mastaba into the step pyramid is not definitively known. Imhotep wanted to build a tomb that resembled the wall city of Memphis, not just the palace. In this way, the king would have had all the things that he needed for the afterlife. Imhotep decided to put one mastaba over the other in a pyramidal shape, and thus the idea of a pyramid shape was born. How were the pyramids built? The two scholars, Mark Leonard and Zahi Hawass, believe that Giza housed a skeleton crew of workers who labored on the pyramids year-round, but during the late summer and early autumn months, when the Nile flooded surrounding fields, a large labor force would appear at Giza to put in time on the pyramids. During the film, This Old Pyramid, the scholars made an experiment to calculate the amount of men needed to build the Pyramid of Giza. The calculations give an approximate of 20,000 to 30,000 men needed to build the pyramid in an average period of 20 years. The principal material they used for the outer layer and foundations was limestone. For the floors, the materials used were granite and basalt. They did not use advanced tools. On the contrary, their tools were simple, like shovels, granite hammers, and copper chisels. The cut of the stones was made near the pyramid to facilitate their transportation by using wooden skis pulled over wet sand. Why were they made? The Egyptians believed in the afterlife. For that reason, they built tombs that helped them get there. For them, tombs were like their homes and were built to last for eternity. They spent a considerable amount of time preparing their tombs and burials while they were still alive. Originally, only the pharaoh was granted the afterlife, but as time went on, more and more Egyptians were granted access to the afterlife, starting with the noble classes and eventually working their way down to all members of society. What was their impact on society? The king was considered a god for that reason. Egyptian people helped build his tomb. They believed that if they helped build the king's tomb, they would be ensuring their place in the afterlife and would also benefit the future and prosperity of Egypt as a whole. The construction of the pyramids was a reflection of the role and function of kingship and the organizational network that flowed from the royal palace. The sophisticated national bureaucracy had a privileged class that benefited from its relationship with the king. These characteristics made Egypt a cohesive state. It is believed that villagers gathered at Giza to work for their god kings, to build their monuments to the hereafter while the flooded season of the Nile. This caused an economic shift in society, as the city's population would drastically grow in a short period of time, and King Khufu would collect food taxes to feed his laborers.